Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a truly fascinating framework. It's one that helps us completely decode the world around us. You can think of it as the ultimate tool for making sense of human behavior, society, and, well, our actual place in it. Let's jump right in.
So I want you to ask yourself a question. Are we truly independent, or are we just pieces of a much larger, kind of invisible puzzle? Seriously, think about it for a second. Think about your daily routine, your neighborhood, your city. How much of what you do is completely in isolation?
Well, the short answer is we aren't isolated at all. The foundational concept here is that human beings are just social by nature. We rely on shared public spaces and resources literally every single day. Just think about the water from your tap, the roads you drive on, the hospitals that keep us healthy, or even the markets where we buy our food. At the end of the day, we depend on one another for safety, livelihood, and our overall well-being.
You know, right from birth, our social circle starts scaling up. We start out in a family. Then, as we grow, we connect with neighbors and classmates, and eventually, we become part of entire villages, towns, and cities. And because life is lived together like this, the actions of one person or one group can actually affect so many others. Social science is essentially the study of these exact connections and shared arrangements.
To really wrap our heads around this lens we're using, let's look at the scholar Charles Beard. He brilliantly illustrates what social science is by contrasting it with what it isn't. He described it as a body of knowledge pertaining to human affairs, our social relations and behaviors, as distinguished from mere physical objects like sticks, stones, and stars. So we aren't just studying rocks floating in a vacuum, we are studying actual people.
And this idea is perfectly captured by James High. He defines social science as bodies of learning and study which recognize the simultaneous and mutual action of physical and non-physical stimuli which produce social relations. Kind of a mouthful, right? But basically, think of social science as a pair of glasses. These glasses let you see exactly how the physical world and those invisible social forces are constantly interacting to shape our lives.
Okay, so let's dive into how it actually works in practice. Social science is definitely not about guessing. It's careful, it's organized, it's highly systematic. It doesn't just rely on personal opinions or random assumptions. Instead, it involves actively asking questions, collecting information, comparing evidence, and building solid explanations. It helps us figure out how rules develop, and crucially, it encourages us to really examine who gains from a decision, who loses, and why that happens.
Section 1. Systems and Institutions, the Structures of Society.
So, if we shift our lens from everyday interactions to the macro level, we start looking at the systems and institutions that shape how society actually functions day to day. We're talking about the government, the law, courts, schools, the police, markets, and local bodies. These are the entities making the really big decisions. They decide how resources get shared, how public services are provided, and how our rights and duties are protected. For example, trade policies and market prices, they directly influence what our families can actually afford to put on the dinner table.
Moving on to Section 2, the detective story, seeking causes and consequences.
This is where social science turns into a bit of a detective story. We're actively seeking out the causes and consequences of human behavior, basically trying to spot the hidden patterns. Let's look at a highly relatable, real-world scenario. Why do some children find it easier to complete schooling than others? Seems like a pretty simple question, right? But the moment you put on your social science glasses, suddenly this whole complex network of clues just appears.
The crucial point here is how this one single question instantly cascades into a dozen others. Are schools located way too far from certain villages? Do families have enough income to afford uniforms, books, and transport? Do historical disadvantages or social discrimination affect someone's opportunities? And hey, do government policies actually support all citizens equally, including girls and children with disabilities? It's kind of wild when you realize just how many layers of interconnected barriers are actually out there.
And that brings us to a huge core realization. A single issue almost never has just one cause. It usually has geographical, economic, political, and historical reasons going on all at the exact same time. Social science is basically the essential toolkit that helps us connect all these diverse reasons so we can develop a much fuller, richer understanding of whatever problem we're looking at.
Section 3. The Core Disciplines, Tints on the Lens.
To organize this massive task, social science brings together several different disciplines. Honestly, it helps to think of them as different colored tints you can just snap right onto your glasses. Each tint highlights something totally new, and together they give us a complete picture of society.
At the school level, it's usually organized around 4 core areas. You've got geography, which focuses on the Earth, the environment, and how humans live spatially. Then history, which looks at past events and societal changes over time. Political science examines governance, laws, and collective decision-making. And finally, economics, which deals with resources, livelihoods, and markets. Now, while they definitely ask distinct questions, they overlap a ton in real life. I mean, you can't truly understand an economy without understanding its geography or its history, right?
Let's zoom in on geography specifically for a minute. Geography studies the Earth as the home of human beings. It helps us make sense of landforms, climate, rivers, soils, and forests. But at the exact same time, it studies how people actually live in different places and how they utilize their specific, unique environments.
You see, geographers ask really highly practical questions, like, why do some places get way more rainfall than others? Or, why are some regions incredibly densely populated, while others are basically empty? How does the local climate influence agriculture? Geography shows us that human life is just inextricably linked to our physical conditions. For instance, coastal regions might totally thrive on fishing and sea trade, while mountain regions might depend entirely on tourism, forests, or terrace farming.
And what's really cool is that geographers today use amazing technology to answer these questions. Take remote sensing, for instance. This is a method where geographers use satellite images to study coastlines, crops, and cities from way up above. It helps track urban growth and deforestation, and it is absolutely vital for disaster management. It provides quick, literal, life-saving information during things like cyclones, earthquakes, and other natural hazards.
Ultimately, geography brings us face to face with some pretty urgent environmental challenges, things like floods, droughts, and pollution. It really drives home the immense value of sustainability, teaching us a very stark lesson. The careless use of our resources harms both people and nature alike.
Section 4. History as a discipline. All right, let's swap out our geography tint for our history tint. Now, history gets a bad rap sometimes. It's just, a boring list of dates or dead kings, but it's actually exploring people and their daily lives in different periods. It tracks social and cultural developments, the rise and fall of great institutions and ideas, major events, and powerful movements for freedom and justice. Its true purpose is to help us understand exactly how society has changed over time and why our present world is shaped the way it is today. You literally cannot understand the present without tracing its roots back into the past.
And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate goal of all these disciplines combined. The National Curriculum Framework for School Education puts it perfectly. They say, at the heart of social science education lies an understanding of the world, the diverse concerns of human society, and participating in it as empathetic and responsible citizens. And really, that is the big why behind this entire explainer.
By studying social science, we arrive at this incredibly empowering realization. Society is not fixed. Not at all. It is shaped by human choices and actions. Because people create the rules, the institutions, and the traditions, it means that people, meaning you and me, can also improve them. We actually have agency.
So the absolutely crucial point to take away as we wrap things up today is this. If society is indeed shaped by our choices and our actions, what kind of society will you choose to build today? Keep that social science lens on, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next explainer.